I'll tell you, whether your interest in daylilies is for large ones or small ones, early ones or late ones, when we're finished talking to Ken here at Ken and Vicki Llewellyn's Gardens in Gallatin, Tennessee, interest in daylily, it's going to be large when we're finished. Ken,
yes, ma'am.
Thank you this morning. Give us an early beginnings of this beautiful garden.
Well, it started about almost 4 years ago. That's when we started with this, and I did some work for a man in Hendersonville, and seen his garden, seen his daylilies, and just fell in love with them. Just the different colors and the variety that there was. I'd never seen anything like it before, and so it was pretty amazing.
And that started it all.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, there's nothing like a man in a garden, especially when he has all the equipment to start doing all of the beds and everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now then, in the beginnings of someone that wants to be new into the daylilies, you know, tell us about the classes of daylilies.
Well, there's several different types. It's just a variety. And that's what sold me on them to begin with, is there's so many different kinds. No two daylilies are exactly alike. And so you can go from spiders, you can go to unusual forms. There's just all types of varieties of daylilies, colors, shapes, and sizes. I prefer big, tall, dark colored daylilies. My wife's favorite are the orange color because she's a Tennessee ball fan, and we have all types and all colors here, as you can see.
Well, I think it's interesting that when we're yarning in the early spring, there's one that'll bloom then, and you say today we're in the middle parts.
Yes, ma'am.
And you also have some that have yet to show color in their bloomscapes.
Yes, ma'am.
So that means that you get, whether the daylily is a one-day bloom or not, you have a lengthened season because of that early and late season.
Yes, ma'am. One plant will have 4 or 5 scapes on it.
Yeah.
And that 4 or 5 scapes will have 5 or 6 buds per scape. And so that bud will bloom one day, then the next day on that same scape you got another blooming. So you might take that one plant and go for 2 weeks blooming, one bloom at a time.
Yes.
And you multiply that times 1,100 plants, and you've got color pretty much for the whole season.
When exactly does that daylily bud open? I've seen my garden at night thinking, oh, you're going to be there, but when does it actually open?
Well, most of them begin opening in the morning. That's why they're called daylily. They start, you have some that start prior to dawn, but most of them will be open by dawn, and usually by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, they'll start losing their colors and fade a little bit.
Well, let's talk about the varieties that you particularly like. You like them tall, and
yes,
then
ma'am.
you like them doubled.
I like doubles, I like tall. You know, I have not found one I didn't like. I like them all.
When
I first got started, I did not like the spiders because they reminded me of clowns and the colors in a clown.
Yeah.
But the more I got to looking at them and the patterns that I have some that has patterns in them and so forth, so I even like spiders now.
And then they have teeth.
I have some with teeth, yes, ma'am.
Well, let's just kind of walk through your garden, and let's talk about a garden in particular that's your family.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have some different ones in there that
I do, yes, ma'am.
That you liked. One for you.
Got one for my wife. I have one for my grandkids.
Yes.
Some we hibernized ourselves, and so and we have several different gardens. I have a football garden. I have a fantasy garden. I have a family garden. I have, when you first come in the farm, that's my granddaughter's. That's her secret garden down in the left-hand corner. So we got them everywhere.
Excuse me, and I believe that Vicki has one that she likes. It's the faith garden.
Yeah, we have a faith garden. Everything that has to do with our faith is displayed somewhere in that garden. She can actually give you the plan of salvation walking through her garden. So
well, I did see it, and it was really beautiful. Well, let's talk about some of your dark, tall ones that you like. How about you fooled me?
Yeah, fooled me is not really a dark, tall one, but that was one of the first ones I ever had. The fooled me was, but I have several. Dakara is a dark, tall one. I have two cats laughing. I have.
I like that one in the dogwood tree.
I have a dogwood tree. I planted next to two cats laughing, so I call it two cats laughing in a dogwood. So I have several different.
Okay,
dark
now
colors.
You liked Space Coast 5 o'clock somewhere.
5 o'clock somewhere is a very pretty flower. It has all types of color in it. Got a dark midrib and light, and the throat is it's just a multitude of colors in that plant.
What about Steve's cornrows?
Stevie's cornrows is another dark one. I called a lady in South Georgia and asked her what her favorite daylily was. She's a hibernizer down there, And she said, Stevie's corn rosin. So she sent me 2 plants of it, and that thing produces like Carter's liver pills.
I could tell that every one of these just roll off of your tongue. And what about the Get Her Done?
Get Her Done is one of my favorite plants. It's it's not dark, but it's got a lot of orange and yellow color blend to it, and it gets tall. It gets about 38 to 42 inches tall.
And then you also like a saber-tooth?
Saber-tooth, Space Coast saber-tooth, yes ma'am. It's another, but it's not dark, but it's got a lot, it's actually got teeth on it.
Okay, and so back to the ruffles that are actually on the petals, and that's what you are calling teeth.
No, the ruffles on the petal, I call that chicken fat. It gets ruffled around the edge like a little piece of chicken fat would, but the teeth are the little sharp edges on the end of the petal.
Then you've got some little double ones like Class and Sass.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
That's
Class
a
and Sass.
joiner one, isn't it?
It is, yes, ma'am.
Well, I know that I'm going to just have to go through a list because my mind is not long enough. I'm familiar with a lot of these names, but it's quite obvious that you know all of them.
I don't know them all, but there's a bunch here.
What is it you think that keeps your exuberance going?
I guess more than anything, the variety. Daylilies, when you get into hybridizing, you get a seed pod and it will have 5 or 6 seeds in that pod. When you put them rascals in the ground, even though they come from the same mama and daddy, there'll be 5 completely different plants, just like our kids are. You get 3 kids, you don't get 3 kids the same. And my Daylilies are the same. I can hybridize, put 5 seeds in the ground, and each one of them will have a different characteristics from its mama and daddy.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, just the difference in them.
So
is what I like.
You keep the ones that you're hybridizing and your seedlings off totally separate.
Yes, ma'am. I have a whole seedling garden over here that we keep those in, and we watch those for a while to make sure each one of them has a consistency that we like.
Well, the Middle Tennessee Daylily Society is certainly fortunate to have someone like you that will keep the love going. And of course, there's no doubt that if you want to know a variety, how many do you have?
I have over 1,100 individual named plants, individual registered plants, and close to 1,800 total plants, not counting the seedling gardens.
Yes. Is there anything you do particularly for your plants as you put them to rest for winter?
Everybody's different. I do mine after they're done. I cut mine back to, like, you know, when you get a plant shipped, how they cut the tops out of them. I do that to all of my plants, and then feed them with a liquid fertilizer. You know, they're in the corn category of corn, so I use an old corn fertilizer.
I didn't know that.
I used an old corn fertilizer that Mr. Bell told me about, and you know, again, I don't try to reinvent the wheel. I do what works for other people, and so
what's
that's
the analysis
what worked for me.
on that corn fertilizer?
It's 16-4-8 is what it is.
All the plants, not much root and not much. Well, the flower is the middle analysis.
But I put them to bed like that, and that keeps me from having to do a lot of cleanup in the early spring, where you have all the dead leaves you got to go in and pull. If you cut them back like you just put them in a shipping.
So even your evergreens and semi-evergreens and everything, you just treat them all the same.
Of course, the dormants disappear anyway.
Yes.
But I do them all the same way.
Well, I have to say that usually people that are into plants have another collection of plants besides the daylily, but I can tell your gardens you are a strict daylily lover.
Yes, ma'am. I do like daylilies. Now, my wife has a variety of other plants that we use as a accent for them, but the biggest focus is daylilies.
And then when the end of July comes, you're ready to go fishing, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. But now we actually bloom through August and September. We have blooms.
Oh, you do?
We have blooms into September sometimes in here.
Well, now I'm going to have to get the names of those because I don't know about those.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a day for being in a daylily garden, and definitely the man of the hour is you.
No, well, I appreciate y'all being here.
For inspiring garden tours, growing tips, and garden projects, visit our website at volunteergardener.org or on YouTube at the Volunteer Gardener channel, and like us on Facebook.